is the meeting of the Vernon Township. Hello?
We can
The
hear
meeting
you.
of the Vernon Township. I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh. All
We
right,
hear
this
you.
is a meeting for the Vernon Township VTMUA, July 1st, 2021. Statement of compliance pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice of this regular meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 20th, 2021, and delivering to the press such notice and posting the same at the municipal building and filed with the office of the township clerk. All rise to salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America,
And
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
So roll call of members and professionals.
Okay, Mike Fury,
We have here,
Paul Kearney,
Here,
Andy Pitzker,
Present.
Harry Shortway,
Present.
Scott Galway.
Here.
Tonight, Dave McDermott and Kristen Wheaton are absent. Professionals present are Don Albright, the administrator, Rich Wenner, the attorney, Steve Banoski, engineer, Howie Leisure, the licensed operator, and myself, Jacqueline McCabe, the recording secretary.
okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Number 5, anybody want to make a motion to open the meeting to the public?
I'll make the motion to open the meeting to the public.
Second it.
Motion made by Paul Kearney, seconded by Harry Shortway. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Seeing nobody opposed, is there any members of the public who want to speak?
There are no members, and I did not receive any correspondence to be read into the record.
Excellent. Anybody want to make a motion to close to the public?
Make a motion to close the floor to the public.
I'll second it.
Motion by Harry Shortway, seconded by Paul Kearney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, moving on to number 6. We'll start with the approval of minutes from June 3rd, 2021. Did everybody have a chance to review June 3rd, 2021?
Yes.
Any questions? Anybody have any questions?
Questions here.
Not for me.
Clean and green, actually, very well done.
Thank you.
Very, very well done. That's good to hear. Entertain a motion to approve minutes from June 3rd, 2021.
So moved.
Second that.
Motion by Harry Shortway, seconded by Andy Pitzker. Roll call.
Mike Fury,
Yes.
Paul Kearney,
Yes.
Andy Pitzker,
Yes.
Harry Shortway,
Yes.
and Scott Galway.
Yes.
June 17th, 2021, minutes. Everybody have a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Any questions, concerns?
Turns it all.
None at all?
None
Once
at
again, an outstanding job. So I entertain a motion to approve minutes from June 17th, 2021.
Motion to approve minutes from June 17th, 2021.
I'll second it.
Motion by Andy Pitzker, seconded by Harry Shortway. Roll call.
Mike Fury,
Yes.
Paul Kearney,
Yes.
Andy Pitzker,
Yes.
Harry Shortway,
Yes.
and Scott Galway.
Yes.
Chairman, just one question. Recordings on Zoom, are they also being put up as links?
I don't put them up as the link. I just upload them to the YouTube channel.
Okay, you'll upload them to the YouTube channel. Do we have a link to the YouTube channel that we reference on the website?
There should be.
Okay.
I believe that there is. It's not, hold on, I'm actually checking right now.
Okay.
I don't think there's a link just to the YouTube channel. I think it's linked to the meetings.
Okay.
Right.
Only reason-
While we're talking about this, before we get into the administrative update, I wanted to pose, it's not the full MUA here, but I wanted to ask this anyway. What is everyone's feelings? I want to give a feedback, whether you want to do, whether you want to do meetings virtually or in person or a hybrid. What's everyone's opinion? I'd like to hear about from everybody and get a general consensus. Anybody?
If everybody wants to get together in person, I'm fine with that. If we, I'll go with whatever everybody's more comfortable with.
Do we have the availability yet?
So
To go hybrid?
yes, I was just about to explain that. So all of the hardware and stuff should be installed in the council chambers for like a hybrid type of meeting situation where we have the screens and we can run our Zoom meeting and have an in-person meeting at the same time. That should be done by the end of the month. That's what Chuck was told by the IT company. So it should be ready to go by the beginning of August. We could probably do like a full hybrid meeting then, I would think. At the second meeting in August, I probably wouldn't want to be the first ones to try it out.
All right, can you explain to me exactly what the hybrid meeting would be? How that would
Yeah,
work?
so Bayonne actually does this. I know there's a couple other municipalities that are doing it now. So you would have the option as as commissioners and also our professionals and the public. They could either come to the building and sit in a regular meeting, but that regular meeting would be done also via Zoom. So we'll have 2 monitors that kind of hang from the ceiling so that the people that are on the board can see the individuals that are attending via Zoom. And then we can also, kind of talk with people. We can still have people attend from the public via Zoom as attendees and participants and still comment. But the meeting can also be recorded the way it would be in our old school days of having our public meetings.
Now, inside the building, we still have the mask mandate, correct?
We do still have the mask mandate, yes. And I believe the court administrator just told us the other day that based on like measuring everything out, because they had to do that for court, I think the most members of the public you could fit on that side of the council chambers is 20. So we couldn't have any more than 20 people with social distancing in that room, on the public side.
So if we decided to go this route and we were in person there, then we would have to wear masks.
I think if you're socially distanced, you do not have to wear a mask.
All right, but I mean
in the council chambers, but I will get confirmation from administration on that.
Because if we're all sitting at that table, then there was no way we're socially distanced from each other, right?
Correct. I believe, Harry, we could probably do some at the top dais and some at the bottom to socially distance if necessary.
And then I was concerned in the event we had more than 20 people, we were talking about putting speakers outside in the hallway and also to the outside, that if people wanted to stand outside and listen. Did they go forward with that plan?
That I do not know.
Okay.
I don't know the specs of exactly what was involved. I just know that it's being modeled off of what was done in Bayonne because that's supposed to be working really well.
Well, with that in mind, it's what it seems like once that hybrid technology is available and confirmed, and I know we don't want to be the first ones to try it, but I think in August, I think it would be a good idea to try to do the hybrid and start then. But for now, just continue through July, just doing things remotely. And then once that technology is done and ready, then we could probably move to, I think we'd be all, does everybody feel that way? Is everybody, I'd rather do it with a general consensus, like a yes or no. Is that a reasonable approach in August if that hybrid's available, that everyone's comfortable, being in person, and then having people like maybe professionals dial in remotely on screen, which is, better for them. It's less travel for them. But those who are on the board who live in Vernon, it would be maybe advantageous to meet in person so we can, look at maps, see things, could kind of be maybe more productive. Is everybody comfortable with that?
I know the council is probably moving that way, probably in August. We were also watching what the court's going to do, because it's courtroom and they get a lot of people sometimes in courtrooms, and we're looking for them to for guidance. But I think they're going to open up also. And a lot of my concern was getting the hardware and to do the hybrids. So I mean, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I don't want to do a meeting. I don't want to do a meeting in August and like turn everything on and nothing works, because that'll just make everybody mad.
Well, the council will be
we'll
the
get
first ones. Mike, let the council.
yeah, let them try it first and then see if it works. You know, Andy's laughing, but it's like,
Well, I was going to make a suggestion here is that, I mean, several of us should go into the chambers when this is ready, get a feel for how the system works, do a test with some of us off-site, some of us on-site, and make sure we're comfortable with the technology and the glitches that you can come up with. So that would be my approach, is like, you know, a week or two before we're actually ready to go on, we go in and we do a test.
Well, Andrew, I think that would be the administration's job to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be,
send them out.
yeah.
And,
I
make
agree.
sure it all works.
Yeah, I agree. That it works, but it's for us to be comfortable with the technology when we're standing in there.
Because if
Yeah,
you put it more than three together, you now have a meeting,
Okay, good point.
right? You're going to have a quorum.
Yep, you bring up a valid point.
yeah, so we want to avoid that whole thing too.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes. Let's play it by ear and we'll revisit it. That's good feedback. I'm comfortable with that. All right, let's move on to number 7. Yeah, I'd rather the council go first and see how it goes, and then follow suit from there.
What do you think, Harry?
Yeah, I know.
I guess so.
I mean, hey, you're both on the council. If it goes bad, then we'll see how it
deal with
goes.
We'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it then. That's right. All right, number 7. Let's go to Nell.
Yeah.
Administrator up.
Yeah, so our DEP permits were signed and stuff. We did get them over to Steve. So Steve, you should have them, obviously. I don't know if Steve, if you have anything to comment. I think we just had to go ahead and file that stuff now, correct?
Yep, we were, it has not yet. It will be any day now.
Okay, great. The connection fees, I would like to discuss that tonight. It's in obviously at the bottom part of the agenda. If we just, can come to a conclusion on, how the board wants to move on this, that would be great. The force main evaluation, obviously we walked the force main. We talked about this at the last meeting. I think we're just awaiting a report from Dewberry on this. Overall, I think we all kind of agreed that it went well, and we didn't see anything. I mean, obviously we can't see the pipe under the ground, but we didn't see any like serious cases of erosion or anything like that. So that's a positive thing. I did, in the administrator report, make some comments about the sewer service area mapping. The mayor did send that letter that you guys all got a copy of a couple of weeks ago. He did send that to the governor regarding the DEP and the issues that we've had with our sewer service area. So that was really great. I actually didn't know that he was going to do it until I got a copy of it saying that it was sent. So that was really good. Mike and Rich and I had a discussion about the sewer service area. It has to do with like the town planner getting a state designation for the town center. It could affect the sewer service area. So I think we should probably wait to see how that goes before we really move on the pushing forward, I think, harder on the sewer service area. I mean, the mayor did send his letter. If that goes somewhere, great. But I know that they're meeting next month, or sorry, that's this month now, it's July 1st, to approve the state planning center designation in Vernon Township. So that's a positive thing, I think, for obviously the township, but here, more importantly, for the sewer area. Our updates on the capital items, you guys got the capital sheet listing. A couple of things, the panels came in, so that's good. The Zoller pump, we're going to get some updated specs on the pump from Howie. Howie actually just emailed you because I don't know if one of the emails didn't go through, but we don't have something, the updated specs that you would think that you had suggested getting. So we're going to be moving on 2 of those pumps once we get that done. Hopefully we'll have that purchase order in the next week or so. All the railings that we wanted to take care of, that's going to get taken care of. We did have a winning quote on that, so that PO should be issued probably the beginning of next week. We're going to have the requisition put in tomorrow. So that's where we are with our capital list. Let's see, our emergency services, we did reach out for informal quotes. We got a few of them back. I think we're waiting for one more individual or company to respond. So that's good. And now then we'll put together a good comprehensive list of who we're going to call for what, so that we can get, the best pricing to help us save additional money.
Janelle, who responded? Janelle, who responded?
I literally just had it. Jackie, do you know offhand? Because I just closed it.
Yep, it is, Spadell and Sons and Ferraro. They both responded and we're waiting on Mike's Mobile.
Okay. Yeah, Spidell actually reached out to us when they heard about it. So so that was good. I think they were ready to issue some quotes. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
Okay, cool. So the next is our water infrastructure. So obviously we did have a meeting between myself and Mike, Harry, Mayor Burrell, and Chuck to discuss the use of the America Rescue Plan funds. Obviously, there are a lot of different things involved. I wrote the eligible uses, water and sewer, broadband infrastructure. The township could issue individual business grants for small businesses to cover public health expenditures, as well as loss in revenues from 2020. There's also a line for premium pay for essential workers that they could use that money for. Ultimately, our meeting, we came to the conclusion we think the best thing, we've discussed this before, the best thing to really use that funding for is something that's going to be long lasting, like sewer and water infrastructure, something that's actually going to help our town center. So I had already requested Steve to review our expanded map, and we talked about this a couple of times about seeing, what certain areas, whether our expansion plans, what estimated costs and probable infrastructure needs to be put in those areas versus existing sewer service areas that are not necessarily serviced, like the other side of Route 94 is an existing sewer service area, but none of those buildings and properties are being serviced right now because they have no place to physically connect. So Steve is working on putting together a rough plan on 4 different areas of our sewer service area and approximate costs of how we could connect those locations and properties. So he's putting that together, and that combined with the estimates that we have from some old estimates on bringing water to town center with Suez is kind of what we're basing our projected costs on, right? So once we get that from Steve, in order to use the funding, there are 2 ways you can use it. You can issue a capital ordinance to use all of the funding or a part of the funding, which is, just like any other ordinance, it's 2 readings. Or you can do a bond ordinance if the total project is obviously more than your ARP funding you were allotted for. So if our project is $6 million, we were given 2, we can use that $2 million as part of our cash down payment for that bond ordinance and move forward on that. So that's kind of where we are. I did reach out to Corey and Steve to try and move forward, to try and get a meeting with Suez again. But I think the best way to do it, and we talked about this in our meeting, is kind of putting in place that capital ordinance or that bond ordinance based on our estimates for projects so that it looks, like we're serious. We are willing to spend money on these projects. We don't just want to keep meeting and having meetings and not going anywhere with those meetings. So I will draft an ordinance, a capital ordinance for the ARP funds. I'm just not sure how much I'm going to be putting in that capital ordinance, because if the projects that the township wishes to do are more than that ARP funding, the $2.1 million, then I should probably save some of that money and not put it in a capital ordinance and keep it aside so that we can use it as the cash down payment on a bond ordinance for the remainder of the funding. I hope that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of information.
Janelle, this question is for Harry and Andy, or both Harry and Andy from the council. Is it possible to get that completed and on the next council meeting and then considered. And the reason why I say that because, we found out in the meeting that the Route 515, there's plans to pave Route 515, and we don't want to run into the same problems that we had with Route 94 paving. And we want to move fairly quickly on this project and start working on it. And in order for Suez to take us seriously, I think we need to pass this ordinance. Now, I know I mentioned this, in the past, and I'm just finding out I do work for other towns. And what's interesting is almost every town I work for, and Rockaway is the next one, they're getting $2.7 million and they're doing the same. They're taking all that money and putting it into wastewater and wastewater infrastructure. So I think in order to move the whole thing forward and really start making progress, if the council and the mayor can put that out in an ordinance, hopefully that's possible by the next council meeting.
Mike, if the administration gives me an ordinance, I'll put it on the agenda as soon as it's ready. But it's going to have to come, the township's assets, it has to come through the mayor's office.
Yeah, and I just to be clear about something too, right? So I think ideally we have an estimate for the water side of things, but in our discussions, we talked about using this money for water and sewer. So that's easy enough to address with the capital ordinance, but we all know that water and sewer projects are going to be more than $2.1 million, right? So I think eventually we will have to do a bond ordinance for the remainder for any debt taken out. And you have to put a down payment on a bond ordinance. So if we have to do a bond ordinance for an extra $4 million, that's $200,000 that we're going to have to put in cash, and that's on the township side. So I think if we're going to do this, it just needs to be done right. I need to know, and just, a ballpark figure of cost before I reach out and I have a bond ordinance drafted, because I'd like to be able to say, okay, we're going to put a capital ordinance aside for 2 million, and then we'll do a bond ordinance, and I'll keep the extra 100,000 as part of that cash down payment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I agree with you, Denali. You have to have a plan. And
Right.
This question's over to Steve Benoski. I hate to put this lean on you here. How quick can you get like a technical memo where you can get these rough cost estimates, focusing on the town center only?
Should be next. Something real basic next week and the next week.
Okay.
Certainly within like 10 days.
And no offense, to Steve, but you're going to have to pull Corey in because he's the township engineer. So Steve and Corey are going to have to get together. I know Corey's worked out these plans, the 2 general plans. You've all been mailed them, one with the ground tank, the other with the extended pipes and the pumps on it. And you're going to have to lay it out specific because, again, by no means do I speak for the whole council, but if you go to them, just give us $6 million bond, you're probably not going to see it. I think pretty much everybody is confident on the water because we've discussed this for, 12 years. We've been pushing it through. So it needs to be really specific where we're going. And let's be realistic. You've got an election year, election time right now. And they're not going to be just say, hey, here's $6 million, have fun with it. And again, the community is constantly elected officials that wanted that phase 3, wanted the water brought into the town center. So I think we got a really good shot. That'll be $3 million. So you'll need $150,000 cash down on that, correct, Danelle? 5% of the bond. And that can go from $2.5 to $3 million. Those were the estimates. But anything else, it's going to have to be specific to get it in front of the council. And I'm sure the mayor is going to feel the same way.
Yeah, and I agree with Harry. Steve, reach out to Corey because he has a real background in this. Yeah. I really work closely with Corey to get this estimate because we need to work. The MUA has to work closely with the council, and I think he has a lot of this information. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but try to get this out as fast as possible.
I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
Just as a matter of procedure, maybe you could talk to the mayor because technically to get the engineering involved, we have to go through the mayor, and maybe you could discuss it with Dr. Burrell tomorrow. If that's okay, we could start these communications. I think we all benefit from it, and we're all on the same team. But I just want to make sure the mayor knows what's going on.
Okay. I'll wait to
Yeah,
hear back.
Danelle, reach out to the
Doing it
mayor
right now.
and
Yep.
and just say, listen, is it all right? He's gonna reach out directly to Corey. Is that okay? And then we have all our T's crossed and I's dotted.
Is there anything we need to cover, Mike, regarding water grants and start any paperwork there that could help?
I was gonna say I just emailed Mike and Harry a little right before the meeting started about the USDA loans, the wastewater and clean water loans that they have. It's my understanding we will not qualify for them because of the population size of Vernon. So that funding is kind of out of the way. As far as the iBank funding, we should be doing we need to focus and figure out what our actual project is going to be so we can go for iBank funding, so we can do the bond ordinance for iBank funding. Because we don't do the bond ordinance until after we know that we're approved through iBank.
Danelle, is that because you're still going to population 10,500?
Yes.
I mean, Mike, remember we tried to get creative and said, well, let's just go by the population Vernon zip code. Since I think we have 5 zip codes, so we tried to reduce the population. and this was back in 2016, and wouldn't go for it.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
Think you have
Slick.
I think you have a better shot. I think the better shot is the iBank. And then Danelle's right, in order to apply for an iBank, whatever it is, a loan, debt forgiveness project, you need a project, and you have to have a specific project, and it has to be very well laid out in an exact plan. Nothing can get started with the DEP unless we have an exact plan. So when Steve gets that, and Dewberry puts a plan together, working with Corey, we can all lay it out and project by project with estimated cost, and then we can move forward. So hopefully that answers the question. Anything else, Danelle?
I got a question on it too. So our population is too low for that. What population do you have to be at to qualify?
Oh, no, our population is too high.
Too high? Under
Yes.
2,500.
Yes, it's for rural development, and it maxes out at 10,000. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, that's why Borough of Sussex was able to be eligible for USDA, because they were obviously a small town, rural, and that combined probably with net income for Vernon Township, we would never qualify. The Borough of Sussex easily qualified. That's why they were able to get so many grants. And there's and I know Steve's on the line. I don't know if James Chappelle's on the line. He has a lot of experience with Dewberry, and he could speak to how that works, and he has a lot of experience.
Hey, Mike, I'm
So
actually here. I had to sign on Steve's login that he forwarded me. But yeah, you guys are correct. So it's the USDA, it's the rural development. So it has a population size that makes you qualify. And then the other grant that they were awarded was through the HUD Community Development Block Grant, which is small cities. Again, it's population based. So I don't think either of those Vernon would qualify for.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
And so
and James, we were just notified that this CDBG grants, they have they had 2 coronavirus ones. One's like a CV1 and a CV2. Do you guys know anything about that?
I'm not familiar with that.
Because it's so weird, because we would not usually qualify for those kinds of grants, but they were saying like the CV2 we do qualify for, and I'm like, okay. So I'm actually going to look more into that, because I don't really know if we can use that for infrastructure, but that could be a possibility. I just wasn't sure if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I unfortunately have not, but if maybe we could touch base tomorrow and do a little digging on that.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry to interrupt, Mike.
that's all right. Yeah, that's why we have you online. I appreciate James being here.
So just as a point of introduction, James is an engineer that I work with. Donnell's is a little familiar with him, we're trying to get a little bit more involved, and will kind of be my right-hand man and backup for the MUA.
Good. Welcome, James.
Well, we're glad you're
Look
on,
forward to
James.
working with you guys.
Danelle, anything else? Final thoughts?
No, that's it. Everything else is good. Jackie's
Yeah, and if
going on
anybody wants-
vacation next week, so just letting you know in case
There
anyone
you
stops
go.
by the office.
Well deserved.
True
Absolutely.
story.
So if anybody else has any questions, Danelle did a pretty detailed report in the package. So if you want to read that, and if you want to ask her questions offline, that'll be great. Next up is the licensed operator update. Howie.
Yeah, not too much. Danelle covered pretty much a little bit, not a lot, but we had a call for Laticat high level on the 19th. We had a pump failure on that one. The boys were calling in, they pulled it, fixed it. We just had our bioxide delivered, 900 gallons. We had Drew come in to calibrate our meters. He said they were all working well with no problems, so that was good. And then Jackie, our personal air meters are incorrect. And I will have the boys pick them up tomorrow.
I put them with Donnell.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah, Howie, on the it's pump failure. Obviously, you got the alarm system worked fine.
Yeah, the pump failure, and then like I said, it was a high level. So all the alarm was working fine.
And these guys are getting good at pulling the pumps and maintaining them. They understand what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the call-ins says and explains itself. We're not getting too many.
Good. I got a question about these guys who started. Are they interested in going to get a license? Are they going to start the process? Are you encouraging them? What do you think?
Yeah, they actually just asked, and I was actually looking for my past notes in my books, but I don't know if they're at pump station 3, but they're not at my house. They might be at pump station 3.
Good place for
Yeah,
'em.
just so you know. Yeah, Howie, if you can encourage them. By the way, they can take the class online. Through California State, they could do it, the intro to water and wastewater, and do it on their own time. That might be easier for them. I think it's great if they do that. No matter what, if you get them into school and start doing school and working towards getting the license, I think that's a very positive thing. Obviously, they're gonna have to do it on their own because they have to be motivated to do it. But if you can encourage them to do it, that would be great.
Yeah, we just spoke last week about it.
Good. Well, follow up, see what they say. I'd like to get both of them in. If let us know the meeting.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to mention, and Paul knows about this, where is it? Because you're a licensed operator, they did give a waiver for credits. So if you were supposed to get 18 credits, you're only required to get 9 continuing education credits.
Yeah, I got it.
But we still want you to go to get the credits. So we're not going to slow down doing that.
Yeah, no, I'm all good.
Good. All right, that's good. Anybody have any questions for Howie? Any concerns, questions?
I guess I was going to leave this comment later on, but between Steve and Howie, back in the spring when we were down at Pump Station 2, we talked about a project to fill that ditch, put a pipeline in and put a stone in. And I don't see that on the project list at all, getting that done.
Pump station 1.
Pump Station 1, that ditch where we lifted the top off and we got this line coming down. We
Yep.
said we wanted to fill that in. Do we want to continue with getting that done? And if so, I think it needs to be put on the list so that we can address it in the fall when the weeds are disappeared.
Yeah, so not speaking for Howie, but in our opinion, that would be a very, very precautionary measure, not necessarily a necessary measure due to the depth of the pipe there.
Okay.
So that was and I forget exactly how we communicated that, but perhaps we communicated that to Donnell, and perhaps that's why it's not on the list. I'm not certain, but certainly something could be done there. but in our opinion, it wasn't necessary immediately.
Harry,
Yeah,
what's
I
your
was-
thought on this? Because you and I have talked about this ditch before and the safety issues as well. You're muted.
You're muted.
Are you,
Depending on- Go ahead,
go
Mike.
ahead, Harry.
I was just gonna say.
No, I had a question. Sorry, Harry. Sorry about that. Andy, are you talking about prior to pump station 1 and where there's a lot of erosion going on and exposure of a pipe?
There's no exposure of the pipe. We concluded that with Steve during that visit with Howie. The guys took the cover off. We could see how deep the pipe was, but there's a ditch that runs parallel with the road. It comes down that we said, this is concerning because it's more of a, it's a ditch there. It's a safety issue if you try to transition across it. And I know there's a line coming in from down that way, but is it something we should put a drainage pipe, stone, and then level it off so that you don't have people driving down that embankment? So it was more of a safety issue. I know Harry thought there was a pipe there, but we didn't find any piping. So it was something of a nice to do. Yes, we have the money in the capital expenditures, and we're not, these are some of the things we can fix so we can avoid future problems.
Harry, what do you think?
Well, I have to see, the report on it. I mean, this is where I think we almost lost the ATV driving in when we were trying to clear away the easement there. We didn't know that ravine was there. He almost went right down into it. So again, if the pipe's not endangered, but I think we should take safety precautions. I think some of the suggestions were to fill it up and put asphalt on so when the water runs over it, it just keeps on going. It doesn't keep digging away into the embankment.
Yeah. Does everybody agree that that's something we need to address? Paul?
Yes.
Scott, what do you think? And you agree we need to address it? I just want to get consensus. And I think I kind of agree with Andy. If we have the money to fix it, why don't we address it for safety reasons and just fix it?
I know it's not a big
done.
priority. I know it's not a big priority, but it's something where we have money in the budget. And this was the idea, is that to do preventive maintenance as well so we can avoid issues in the future. And also, Howie, from the benefit of if it's leveled off, whether it's stoned or paved, it also increases the area for turnaround. And I'm looking at it saying, winter comes, you slip one truck down that ditch, you got more problems, then that ditch is going to be worth repairing.
Well, yeah, listen, one thing I know, and it's stressed in the utilities, is, you can't scrimp on safety. It's if you don't do something and something happens, you're almost negligent. So it's just something, it should be just taken care of. If it's seen, especially if it's seen as a safety issue, I don't think we could avoid taking care of it.
Yep. So just to be truthful, we were not thinking of it with respect to the safety issue. We were more thinking of it directly related to protection of the pipe. So that puts it in a little bit different light.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it is both, right? So I mean, they either way, and if we don't protect the pipe, that would be negligent too. If we see vulnerable areas, they have to be taken care of. We're talking about laying new pipe potentially somewhere down the line, but we have to take care of what we have now too. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, if you want a recommendation from us, just let me know and we'll provide a kind of a rudimentary description of what could be done there.
I'd like to see that. I mean, we
Okay.
talked about it. Let's put it on the project list and let's get the cost of what it's going to take to get it done. That's my opinion.
I agree. Concur.
With that being said, though, I just don't think we're gonna get a pipe into that or over where we were by the manhole, just because of the location of it.
Okay.
I think probably would be our best bet is maybe some stones And if we are to put a pipe up, I just think we're gonna, if we can't get a pipe to go past the manhole, we're gonna call for an erosion. That's where the velocity of the water coming down the hill is just gonna pound the top of the dirt by the manhole. So, yeah, Stephen, if one day you wanna meet out there again and we could talk and discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you guys come up with the plan, but that big ditch is just,
Yeah,
it's looking for somebody to drive down it.
well, it's not, if they do, they're going down there pretty quick because they gotta get up
Exactly.
over that.
It
We've
only
been
takes
stuck down
one.
in there with a plow truck before.
Okay.
Is Mike still on?
I say his name.
Yeah. But,
I'm on mute.
oh,
Muted
okay.
because
Just
sometimes
checking.
people don't want to.
I can't understand why.
All right. Thanks a lot, Howie. Thank you, Paul, for those kind words.
Anytime.
We're gonna flip flop. I mean, we're gonna switch number 9 and 10, right? Does that make sense, Danelle? We're gonna put our discussion of connection fees before open public.
Yeah,
Is that logical?
yes.
Okay, we're gonna go to number 10. The discussion about connection fees. Now we've had a couple meetings where we've discussed connection fees. Danelle, why don't you go over anything that you've done since the last meeting that you can share with everybody?
Well, so the last meeting I sent that connection fee analysis, and I know it was probably like not enough time to review it. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to review it over the past couple of weeks. What I did was I took existing ratepayers that we have for the MUA, so existing calculated EDUs for some of the commercial properties that we have in town. And then I took it for the vacant areas just right here on Omega, Theta, and Church Street, and kind of said like, okay, what could possibly go here, right? And I based those amounts and average EDUs and therefore average connection fees based on the ones that we have in town already. So I tried to compare like apples to apples, sort of, but it's a little bit difficult when you don't know what could possibly go there. You know, these are all hypothetical situations. So, but when I did this, I wanted to show you guys not only what the existing connection fee would be, you know, let's say for one EDU for one of these locations, right? But also what the total connection fees would be, right? Because we're not just talking about the MUA. I mean, we are talking about just the MUA, right? But I think it's a good idea to have a global perspective on what it would cost for a business to come in general to connect to our sewers. So I did include SCUMA fees in there just so that you could get a better understanding of what the average, you know, the low end average SCUMA fee would be, and then the high end average SCUMA fee. So you could really see what it would cost a business owner or, you know, a homeowner to put something in one of these locations. And obviously these are only a few locations that are vacant in our sewer service area. There are obviously more. I don't know if anyone had questions about how I got to some of these numbers or why I used the ones that I did.
So from your perspective, Danelle, and this is a question. So the choices you have are a 25% reduction, a 50% reduction, or maybe possibly a 75% reduction. What impact if we were to go to, you know, I'm just throwing this out there, I'm just hypothetically, is it going to be if you did a 75% reduction in connection fees to encourage businesses to come and build and connect and develop and expand our sewer system, would that have a big financial impact on us, like 75% reduction, or is it more reasonable to do, you know, a 50% reduction and maybe possibly, or do something that's scaled maybe over time, like
Right.
start with a reduction this year and then move on to, you know, more reductions? What do you think?
Yeah. So this is just my opinion. So I think, one, we have a lot of vacant properties, right? So I think we should take into consideration the cost of a property coming in and having to pay for 5 EDUs, right? Like that's a significant amount of money. It can literally cost like $66,000 if someone has 5 EDUs to connect to our system. So reducing that, I think would be key to help growing businesses. It's a small portion. I'm not saying that when you reduce this, you're going to have all these businesses come to town, but it's something, right? So I think that's important. I think also, as the CFO, I'm more comfortable with that reduction amount of 50%. And the reason why I'm more comfortable with that dollar amount, that $2,300, let's say is just in the way it was calculated based on that draft analysis from the auditor. I feel more comfortable with a $2,300 connection fee based on the existing debt that we have, because some of that debt that we have is really paid by Mountain Creek. So, I think the connection fees, that remainder that's left over is taken care of by what Mountain Creek is paying. So I think I feel more comfortable with the 50% reduction. As far as a difference and how much you're going to bring in, it'll make a difference. Right now, if we keep it the way it is, we'd bring in $137,000 based on our low end average, right? If we reduce it by 50%, that's obviously a loss of $68,000. But that being said, you might lose $68,000 in the beginning, but if you have more businesses coming in paying fees, right, you will make that up. We have to remember that a connection fee is a one-time fee. It's not a recurring, revenue. Even this year, we didn't anticipate any connection fees in our budget because we didn't bring any in last year. So it's a one-time influx of cash. It's obviously used to offset our debt expenses in the future. But the majority of our debt expenses our debt expenses that we currently have are for an existing system that was already built. Not, putting new pipe in the ground and then assessing it on the individual properties for that connection and pipe, if that makes sense. And again, these connection fees could change every year if you wanted them to. They should be changed if we do expand. If we decide to expand to the other side of Route 94. If we do the far end by McAfee, if that gets approved by the DEP, those should be addressed. But I feel more comfortable with that 50% number, around that $2,000 mark, just based on our debt and how connection fees are supposed to be calculated.
Well, I think I brought this up in the past. There were people who got hooked up in the past, were they allowed to pay the fee over a period of time as opposed to a one-shot deal? And if so, if we reduce the fee for people who pay the entire fee up front, I suggest that you give like 3 options on how long it's gonna, they can pay it, at a reduced rate, so they don't have to put all that at once. But the further they stretch it out, the more it's gonna cost in the long run. So if we reduce the fees for people who are paying the full amount, those who aren't gonna pay it in one shot, amortize it out and get, it'll bring in, you'll make up some of the loss of dropping the fee by having it cost more for the convenience or of paying a lesser amount over time.
Right. So in 2012, when we first came on board and we established connection fees, the board did pass a resolution at that point that said that anyone who was connecting to the new lines, if they connected within the first year, it was 50% of the connection fee. So we do have a large number of properties that connected in that first year, and they paid half of that connection fee, half of the $46.65. So you could probably say that half of them already paid half of what we have here, that 50%.
Okay.
I would say more than half paid that 50%, because they connected within that first year. There were some individuals that, because of the number of EDUs that they were assessed, it was very costly. So it was a bit of a hardship. So they did apply to the board, and the board has the right to do this. They can pass resolutions and say they can approve hardships for those individuals, you know, and break it out over 5 years, let's say, right? And then they can pay that fee over 5 years, but they're not going to get that benefit, right, of paying 50% of it. They're going to have to pay the full connection fee. I think so. I think what the board did both of those things, right? They said you could do a hardship, or you could pay half of it in the first year if you connect within the first year and pay your connection fee in that within the first 12 months.
Yeah.
Those are still options, right? For new, I think for expanded areas. I think for expanded areas, you have the option of in the first year, you know, when people are ready to connect, if you connect in the first year, we can do half of the connection fee, whatever is on the books. Anyone moving forward, if they have a hardship, you know, and there's a property in our sewer service area and they need to connect, I think to say to them, okay, you know, if it's a legitimate hardship, you can apply to the board and the board can approve via a resolution to break out your hardship payments over 5 years. And this is what it's going to be, you know, how much it's going to be each year. And, you know, a time frame of when that's due. So I think that those options are still available. I think, I don't, did you mean to reduce, were you saying to reduce it for anyone to connect or like just for new hookups?
I guess for anyone who's not hooked up, if they're looking to hook up, or if we, you know, when we expand, and you know, if people have to hook up, let's just I'm going to make up a number. Say it's $3,000. I know that's not correct, but they don't have the three grand to put up. So if you know you spread it out over like 3 years or 4 years, maybe they'll end up paying like $3,700 over that, but it'd be over that period of time, because I'm sure some people aren't going to be able to pay the full rate in the beginning, and at least in doing that, if we're going to reduce the fees completely, as that's what I understand we're talking about doing, that extra money over that period of time of them paying it back will make up some of the gap of what we're reducing. So we wouldn't be losing as much money on the reduction as just reducing it. Sort of like paying interest on a loan type of a deal.
Right. I don't know if we're
Yeah.
allowed to do that, but I will touch base with the auditor on the specifics of if we're allowed to charge like an additional fee for breaking it out over time.
Yeah. Well, the first thing, well, we have, I guess the decision we have to make, and I want to get everyone's feedback, is that eventually we want to make a decision if we're going to reduce the connection fees or not. Now, I'm strongly in favor of reducing the connection fees, and I'm comfortable with 50%, but I want to know if everybody else is comfortable with reducing it 50%, and then making that official through any kind of resolution or however we have to memorialize it. I think that what it makes is it makes a statement that we're serious about trying to get, you know, new businesses to connect to the sewer system. So is everybody comfortable with 50% reduction in connection fees, or I want to hear everybody's opinion. I'll start with Harry. Harry, hold on a second, Paul. Harry, what do you think?
Well, Danelle, you said financially we can do that without great risk.
Is that a question?
Yes, without great risk.
I mean, there's literally no risk right now. It's not like we have, you know, hundreds of people connecting, right? And I don't have any budget revenues that I'm anticipating, so there's no loss, right? You know, and again, we address this when we're ready to do our expansion, when we're ready to put pipe in the ground. Then we say, okay, this is what our connection fee is. You know, we might have to increase it, right? But yeah, right now there's no risk in putting it at 50%.
Now, I don't believe the Phalian building was hooked up to the sewers, right? But so they should be hooked up.
They've already paid their fees.
Okay, they have. And then has there been any, and I know they're very rough estimates now because they're not even here yet, the 3 businesses that are speaking, I'm just trying to get some kind of forecast what's coming online, the 3 businesses in the town center. Has anybody played with any rough numbers there?
No, because we don't have any,
I know they haven't given us any paperwork, but I didn't know if there's any discussion. Hey, we're looking at this one half, there's 7 EDUs, there's 5. But anyway, to answer the question, I'm in favor of it.
Andy.
I'm just thinking of the public impact on this and making sure that, you know, our past connection fees are not going to get all antsy on it, but just thinking about all the different areas it could impact, but at the same time, if we wait until we're ready with this expansion, I think it makes sense. So I'm in favor of it also.
Thanks, Andy. Scott, what do you think? What's your opinion?
I think that it makes sense. As Donnell mentioned, it's NRR, right? So the idea is to get as many people hooked up as we can so we can get the reoccurring revenue, right? So if we can cut the cost down for the initial hookup to get more people engaged and to get that annual recurring revenue, that to me makes a lot of sense.
Good. Thanks, Scott. Paul Carney, last.
Yeah, I think it's probably the right move. One thing that Andy touched on though is you know, the public impact on the people who did pay the full rate. You know, prior to us potentially reducing here, what kind of roll back or what kind of response we're going to get to this. But none of us were on the board at that time when those prices were put in place, and we're in a position now to, you know, move things forward. So, and this is probably a good way to do it. You know, the goal is to get people paying on a constant. So I think at this point in time, it's probably one of the better things we can do to try to get solvent.
I mean, we can market this, Paul, is, you know, this is a sale. In a way, you can say it's a sale. Is that, hey, we're putting the ditches in the ground. The time to hook up is now. The cost has been reduced for 50% because the hole is open. Once we close that hole, fees go back.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a good way to go at it too.
Exactly. That's how you market it. Is that basically the whole? We got the ditch open now.
Now's the time to do it. It's advantageous to you to do it now. Yeah.
That's marketing one.
Yeah, and once we, you know, if we start moving and putting sewer lines or water lines in the town center, you know, people are start saying that is your chance to start bringing business there and then hooking up at that point. So now's the time to do it. Rich Wenner and Donnell, how do we go about changing this officially?
I believe that we just have, I mean, Rich, I'm going to leave this one to you.
Well, it's established by it would be established by resolution of the commissioners, and then we would just amend the bylaws, the rules and regulations rather, to reflect the newly established connection fee. And of course, as part of that resolution, we would have the supporting documentation that Donnell put together along with Rob.
Can we go ahead and do that then, and then we can vote on it for the next meeting?
So, so the board
Hang on a second.
the board wants that 50% reduction.
Were you going to say something, Andy?
Yeah, hang on a second. We don't do this until we're ready to start putting the ditches in.
What?
No, I think what Donnell was saying is now is the time we can give the 50% reduction, and that might that you give it the reduction now. When it comes time to start putting pipe in the ground, you may need to increase it in order, depending upon the cost of the construction. Right. You know?
Correct.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do is make a decision, and if we put a resolution together and everyone's agreeable, then we vote, we review it and vote on it on the next meeting. Does that seem like reasonable for everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, because we need to get more hookups, connections, and more EDUs before 2023. We can't sit and wait on this. We need to get people to start developing in the town center. There's all these empty lots. Look at Church, Omega, and Theta. Right there must be a dozen empty lots. And people have talked about hooking up, and if they have any plans, now's the time to do it. We're waiting for that restricted age living complex. I don't think those people are ever going to go forward with it, but that would be awesome to have that. And all the EDUs that was going to be 55 units. So right there, you're probably talking 43, 44 EDUs out of that. So, I mean,
And we have a,
to move forward, and that was the whole reason we moved in an area of need of redevelopment, so the mayor could negotiate pilots to start bringing people into the town center before 2023.
exactly. So the time is, we have to do this now.
Yep.
And show that we're serious and we make a move. So, and we'll have an opportunity at the next meeting to vote on it and discuss it. So between now and then, I like the idea of drafting a resolution, have Danelle's supporting documentation to show the reasons why we voted for it and the reason why we did it, and we can all agree upon it, and then we'll have a full board the next meeting to vote on it.
Okay.
All right, anything else about connection fees before we move on?
Do we want to put a term on that agreement?
I'm sorry, a term for the connection fee?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, for instance, that this connection fee is going to be valid from this date to this date, and then will be reevaluated again, or are we going to do this
No.
based on year to year?
No, so connection fees should be reviewed annually anyway,
Okay.
based on the, increased debt for your projects that you have, because it's based on how much you've paid on debt,
Okay.
to get that ceiling number. So, yeah, so it should be, I mean, we should really address it probably next January, and see where we want to go from there. I mean, we didn't really talk too much about whether you wanted like a sliding scale, right? So the board could say, if we have something like Harry, you just mentioned, a development for 40 something units, right? 40 something EDUs. You could say, okay, for the first 10 EDUs, we're going to charge this amount. And then maybe for the next 10 EDUs, we're going to charge half of that. And then maybe a quarter. And then, because again, it makes it more affordable for people to develop, right? And we still have, and it's something we need to keep in mind, we still have a sewer rate that is twice the amount of every other municipality in the system, right? So even though our connection fees might be less, we still have a sewer rate that is much higher, right? So
Yes.
I think by doing that reduction and doing that possible sliding scale in the future too, that could possibly help bring, some substantial development with more EDUs.
And if I could add here, I mean, we're always thinking of like the quarter-acre lots, the half-acre lots. Remember across the street from the municipal hall, there's 10 acres, and I think 8.5 are development. And there was almost a deal there. Andrew, you had some of the details, but we didn't have all the details. That would have been an enormous complex had that deal gone through.
Yep.
So by lowering connection fees, you guys did a great job holding the rates. And then we have the water coming in. We don't know if we can hook into another developer to come into that. But that's really 8 acres right there to be developed right in the town center. That would be tremendous for Vernon in the town center if that deal had gone through. I don't have details what happened, but we're enticing people to start looking and start moving in when we start doing
Right.
things like
And I can tell you, I did work with the Wawa, and we took care of a lot of their wastewater plants. And at one time I talked about whether they'd be interested in coming to Vernon, and their answer was if the infrastructure was there, the water and sewer and the rates were reasonable and attractive, we'd come. And and Andy, I think you said it. It's like if you have to pay for gas, and gas is half as much the next town over, where are you going to go? And
I agree.
we got to reverse that.
No, but
We got to reverse that.
Yeah, but the thing is that this is also a marketing opportunity, is that we need to sit down with the realtors who own those properties, explain to them what we want to do, and push them to promote more. Get the Chamber of Commerce doing the same thing, and we're gonna put a lot of people in place to make sure that they know what we're doing and get it so that they help drive it, because that's a hell of a commitment we're doing.
Yeah, and I agree, Andy. Like that's why we have to do a newsletter, and then we hand that newsletter over to these realtors and the Chamber of Commerce and say, look what the MUA is doing, and they gotta know that, and that's important for them to find out and say, we're open for business, like that's the headline, and that's what we're trying to encourage.
Agree.
Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. Great discussion. We're going to go to number 9. Does anybody want to make a motion to open meeting to the public for items not on the agenda?
I'll make the
Make-
motion.
Good motion.
Motion by Paul Carney, seconded by Harry Shortway. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing no one opposed, is there anybody from the public that wants to speak?
I don't have anybody in attendance or on the chat.
That's good, I guess. Anybody want to make a motion to close to the public?
Motion to close to the public?
I'll second.
Motion by Andy Pittsburgh, seconded by Harry Shortway. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Nobody opposed. Let's go to commissioners' comments, and we are going to start with Mr. Paul Carney.
I'm good tonight.
Billy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know it's very odd.
Okay.
Very odd.
Pensive, quiet and pensive. That's okay. Harry Shortway.
A request of Danelle. Danelle, I don't know if it came in the last email because you know I'm always looking at maps. Can you see if we can get I know Corey had the map. We have the overlay on the town center, and it was actually showing the sewer pipes. And if we can get one with the water pipes, because for years confusion, people think there's sewer pipes on Main Street. There are no sewer pipes. It's just dry water pipes. On 515, all along in front of Acme, there's sewer pipes, there's no water pipes. So this way the commissioners can all review and see the maps and see where we're talking to, where are the maps, where are the gravity mains. Even with the lift stations, additional ones would help. So we see the big picture.
Oh, I think that, yeah, I think I've seen that map, and I'm like, oh, don't I have that map? But you're right, I don't have the sewer main. I only have like the franchise areas that were outlined, not the actual lines, I don't think.
I used to have it hanging in my office over there. But I mean, it's very big. I know Corey has it, but it's great because it's an overlay. You can actually say, okay, there's the Acme building complex, there's the Faline building, and it helps everybody visualize it. And then he also had the overlay showing the franchise areas. And it's a very useful tool. Like I said, I used to have it just hanging on the wall so I could look at it. If somebody said something, I can go look and see what pipes were in that area. Because there's a lot of confusion. For years, we talked about, they bring up the Green Realty building. Now, all the controversy over that, was it hooked up or not?
They're still not connected. I just want to make that clear. They're still not connected.
But they paid, right?
They pay the connection fees.
Okay. So anyway, I just think it'd be helpful if possible we can get all the commissioners these maps. It'd be great. So thank you.
Mhm.
Andy Pittsburgh.
I've said my piece. I'm happy, and happy 4th of July to everybody.
Wow. Thank you, Andy. Scott, it's your turn.
Thank you. So thanks, Harry, because that would be very helpful as I'm new and trying to learn what the plan is and where everything's going to see that map. So thank you for bringing that up to everybody's attention. Then I think, Mike, you had mentioned something about 515 being ready to be paved soon, and we want to make a decision on this quicker about the funds being approved. And I know somebody in the last meeting had mentioned that there is something about if a road is paved, a county road, and within 5 years, you can't tear that road up or something. And I know that they just completed Route 94. So is there going to be any issues potentially with us trying to go down 515 or into 94 with the upcoming paving and the recent paving that just completed?
Yeah, so we are looking into that. We did reach out to the DOT with regards to Route 94. Steve got some more information like on the actual project. I did speak with administration, and they told me that they did not even receive notification about the paving project for 94, which is odd too, because they're supposed to notify us. We were notified of another project that's coming up, but nobody got notification of this paving project. So, I mean, that's frustrating, but we're going to find out more information about that. After speaking with the county, though, last week with administration on the town side, the county has recognized that they're going to have to be more lenient about opening roadways because they have the same kind of moratorium if they do paving. But they realize that because of the ARP funding that they have to be more lenient. You know, we were only notified literally, a couple months ago. So these kind of paving projects are planned years in advance on when they're going to be done. and they're funded years in advance. So nobody could have anticipated that something like this is going to happen. I'm hoping, Steve, I just emailed you this. I'm hoping that that the DOT will feel the same way. I mean, there are some municipalities in New Jersey that are getting like, $50 million in ARP funding. So I'm sure that they've probably had some paving projects in those cities that they might have to lift that moratorium specifically for this kind of work.
Great, thank you. I have one other additional question, and I appreciate you guys bearing with me here. So I've read the letter that you guys drafted and sent over to the governor. What's the next steps there? Like, how long do we anticipate some type of response? Is there a follow-up process after a week? When does it just die? What are we anticipating as next steps for a response there?
It's a good question.
Frank, you want to handle that with our great experience with the governor?
We've had some real great experience with the DP, which is what got us to this point. I think, and some of the notes are in my ADRN report. I want to wait to see what the state does with our state designated planning center. Our town center endorsement, I think is what it's called. It supersedes the Highlands Town Center. It takes the place of a Highlands Town Center. All that work will put us in conformance with the Highlands Regional Master Plan, which could have effects on what is a sewer service area and what is not. So I would like to wait until we get to that point to see what the state does, right? Before we kind of really push further. I hope that
Thank you.
helps a little bit.
Well, it provides some perspective.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. As for my comments, as always, I think we are definitely moving in the right direction. We have projects moving forward. We're making great, we're taking steps to position this MUA to meet the challenges that we have coming up in 2023. So I want to continue to do that. I want to thank Dewberry. There's a lot of work here. We have a lot of projects. We need your support to move these things forward quickly and as fast as possible. Everybody else is doing a great job. Howie's doing a great job. I like what I hear. Other than that, I have nothing else. And with that, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, Andy's got it. I second.
Andy made the motion. Harry seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? With that, everybody enjoy their holiday, and we'll
Happy
see you in a
4th.
couple weeks.
Take care. Be
Bye,
safe.
Happy 4th,
everyone.
everybody.
Sure.
Hi, happy
Okay.
4th.
Bye.
Good night.